Hey, hope you're doing well. Andy here from Drive Steady, and today I'm excited to be reviewing this Mercedes-AMG SL55 and sharing with you all of its new details and also some of my thoughts on the interior, exterior, and of course taking it for a quick drive. So let's get started with this review of the Mercedes-AMG SL55. All right, so let's start the review off by thanking Keys Mercedes for allowing me to review this beautiful new SL55 today. If you happen to be interested in this car or any other new or pre-owned Mercedes product, make sure you give them a call. I've left their information in the description below. Now, let's get started with the new SL, and there's literally so much going on with this car. I'm going to try and cover the most notable highlight items, starting off with the models and the pricing. So in the launching of the SL, you're going to get two options, at least initially, as far as models go. So you've got the SL55 and the SL63, which is going to be coming out in the next couple of weeks. And Mercedes is even going to build an SL43 with a 4-cylinder that'll come out eventually in the next year or so. But one drastic change from the prior generations of the SL and this new one is there will no longer be a non-AMG model SL. So no SL450, no SL550, only the SL43, 55, and 63. But not diving too much into that, let me jump back into the SL55. So once you decide to go with an SL55, there are two trim levels, the performance and the touring. So starting off with the latter, the touring is more of a daily driver focused. Things are baked in as standard that you would be able to use more on a daily basis. And then on the performance side, you get things that are more performance oriented. You get a more sophisticated AMG suspension with active roll bars. You get a front lift system and some yellow brake calipers, and of course a night package. So the performance is more of a performance oriented, a little bit more sporty looking on the outside. But the touring, like this one is, starts at $137,000 plus a la carte options, of course. But if you really wanted the performance trim level, that's going to cost you an additional $7,000. All right, now let's switch and talk about some of the exterior design in this SL, and it is all new. And by new, I mean literally nothing has been carried over from the previous generation. It's a blank sheet car that AMG themselves developed with very little help from Mercedes. It's quite interesting. AMG designed this whole car practically by themselves. And even though the aesthetics have drastically changed, the classic SL design cues still remain with the hammer style layout and the long hood plus the short overhangs by the wheels. This is an unbelievably good looking car in pictures and also in person. All right, now continuing on the topic of changes for this generation of the SL, for the first time since 1989, the SL is going 2+2, meaning you've got back seats now in this generation of the SL. And as a result of all of that, this thing has grown in size. It's 2.9 inches longer overall, and the wheelbase has also grown 4 inches to accommodate the extra rear seats. But I think this move to make the SL a 2+2 is something to bring it along the lines of the Porsche 911. Of course, the 911 does have back seats, whether usable or not. Nonetheless, I will give you all of the details about the back seat once I talk about the interior portion of the review. But now let's switch gears and talk about this convertible top. Alright guys, so now I'm inside the SL, slight change of scenery. It was really hot outside, so I had to come inside. So now let me tell you about the convertible top. There are multiple ways of opening it, 3 ways specifically. I'm going to give you the first 2 right now. There's a button right here underneath the infotainment screen, and there are 2 ways of opening the convertible top via this button. So once you push this button, there's a little screen that comes up, and there's a little slider that you can use to open the top. So once you click on this slider or use the sliding motion with your finger, the convertible top will start to open up. And as far as the opening mechanism, it takes 15 seconds to open, and you can open it while you're traveling up to speeds of 37 miles per hour. Now, both of these specs are extremely impressive. The 15 seconds opening and closing mechanism is extremely fast for a convertible top, and 37 miles per hour is the fastest I've ever heard of any convertible being able to travel while opening the top itself. Now, I mentioned there's a second method of opening the or closing and opening the convertible top using the same button. So you push this button, that same menu will come up, then you hold it again for another 5 seconds, and the top will automatically start closing by itself. Now, this is an ultra convenient option if you don't like using the slider on the infotainment screen. But speaking of convenience, the third and final way to open the convertible top, well, open it and close it, is using the key fob. So if you're walking up to your car and you just want to open it without being in it, push the button to unlock the doors, hold it, and the convertible top will automatically start retracting. And then if you've got the convertible top down, you come to a park and then you walk away and shoot, I forgot to close the convertible top. You don't have to jump back into the car. Push the lock button on your key fob and the convertible top will start closing automatically on its own. So I'm not sure why every manufacturer doesn't put this in their new convertible tops, but I'm glad to say that Mercedes has done it in the new SL. All right, so because this is an AMG car, of course, let's talk about the engine details. So this is the familiar 4-liter twin turbocharged V8 engine, making 469 horsepower and 516 pounds-feet of torque. It's made it to a 9-speed double clutch automatic transmission, and it's putting power down to all 4 wheels. Now, the SL63 that I mentioned will be coming here in the next couple of weeks has basically the same motor, but with bigger turbos and a juicier tune that pumps out 577 horsepower and 590 pounds-feet of torque. The 0 to 60 time for this SL55 is 3.8 seconds, and it's got a top speed of 183 miles per hour. If you opted to go for the SL63, your 0 to 60 drops down a couple ticks to 3.5 seconds. Now, the major mechanical change for the SL is that for the first time ever, it is equipped with an all-wheel drive system. So this is the Mercedes-AMG 4MATIC all-wheel drive system. And the nice thing about it is that it can send 100% of the power to the rear wheels. Now, with all of that out of the way, this thing also comes standard with an AMG performance exhaust. So let me take you around back so you can take a listen to what this V8 sounds like. All right, so now let's talk about the wheels, tires, brakes, and suspension. Starting off with the suspension, Mercedes is doing some really interesting and sophisticated things here. And in the front, you have a 5-link suspension, and this is very uncommon and mostly found in sports cars. For example, the Porsche GT3, the new one, has a 5-link front suspension. Now, beyond just the 5-link, the SL55 also comes with AMG ride control with adaptive dampers as standard. That allows you to tune up or down the stiffness in your SL55 suspension. Now, also as standard, the SL55 is equipped with active rear steering, and it has the ability to turn the rear wheels up to 2.5 degrees. Now, this shortens and lengthens the wheelbase based off of how quickly you're driving. But it definitely is an advantage as far as the handling department. And beyond that, it also has a front lift system, which is a part of the performance package. And it has the ability to lift the front end of the SL 1.2 inches, and it's also GPS enabled. Now, one thing that is interesting about the SL55 is that it is not equipped with a limited slip differential as standard. You have to option in the performance trim level, but of course this comes standard in the SL63 higher trim level. All right, now let's switch topics and talk about these awesome looking wheels. And I've been very vocal about Mercedes and their wheel game, and it continues to be strong with the offering in the SL. So you've got 4 different wheel choices. If you get the performance package, you unlock 2 additional wheel designs. My personal favorite is the 21-inch optional Y-spoke wheel. These are a really cool looking wheel. But not taking anything away with the ones equipped on this car, these are the standard 20-inch wheels. They're 20 inches on all four corners. They're by 9.5 up front and 11 in the rear. The tires are Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's. They're 265s up front and 285s in the rear. Now, jumping inside the wheelbarrow, you have massive brakes, and they're actually the same brakes that you would get in the SL63. They're 15.4 inches up front with a 6-piston caliper with the AMG lettering in black, and in the rear you have 14.2 inches with a single floating piston, again with a red painted AMG caliper. Alright, so now the rear end of the SL, and we're going to switch topics and talk about practicality here in a second. But before I do that, the rear end is a lot more circular. It's absolutely gorgeous. You've got the quad tailpipe, AMG highlighted exhaust. Now let's officially switch gears and now talk about practicality, starting off with the trunk, and then we'll move to the interior. But with the trunk, there are multiple ways of opening it. There's a button on the interior, there's a button on the key, and then there's also the kicking motion right here underneath the diffuser. But once you've got this trunk open, it is an electronic opening trunk, which is always convenient. There's 7.5 cubic feet of space, and Mercedes says you can fit 2 golf bags in here, and I can certainly see that. It's definitely large enough for 2 golf bags, one to stow inside deeper and one right here in the main area. But I can easily see you fitting one really large piece of luggage in here, maybe an additional duffel bag, or 2 medium-sized traveling pieces, just enough for you to go away on a weekend getaway, and obviously more than enough to store your knickknacks on a daily basis. But one thing to keep in mind, the opening. It is not the largest opening, the tallest opening. Just keep that in mind. You're probably going to have an issue with things that are much longer, trying to fit it in here, or very wide. Now, closing the trunk is via a button here. You push that and it will automatically close. Really nice, very convenient. Now let's jump onto the interior and I'll show you what it's like in there. Alright, so now the interior of the new SL, and it is absolutely gorgeous in here. It highly resembles the S-Class interior, the way the doors kind of lead up to the door panel, to the dash, and then the portrait style infotainment screen, which I'll get into here in a second. I'll cover all the details. But overall, it is a very clean, very elegant, nicely put together, high quality interior. There are a lot of soft touch points here on the dash. There is some plastic here. The way this center compartment operates is a little flimsy, but I'm really reaching here. There is some plastic, but overall I would say 90 to 95% of this thing is a very high quality material covered, and both the look and the feel is very high quality at least. Now, as far as the size goes, I purposely left the top closed so I can get a general idea of what this thing feels like when the top is closed. And I can say the size is fantastic. It definitely feels about the same, or maybe even a hint bigger than a 911, but it's definitely comfortable in here. The size-wise, I'm 5'11", and I fit in here just fine. The seat is not even in its lowest position, and I still have plenty of headroom. I could see somebody 6 feet taller, 6'1", 6'2", even 6'3", fitting in here just fine. Just lower the seat a little bit, and it's a very comfortable and decent size place to sit. Now, as far as the comfort goes, this seat is heated, cooled, and massaging as standard. So all of those things come standard in this SL55 trim level, and it's a very comfortable seat. It has thigh extensions, it has side bolstering, it has lumbar, all the forward and backward movement, and of course the massaging is pretty cool too. Now, one thing that is somewhat annoying for me is the side bolstering has to be adjusted from within the infotainment system. I always just prefer a physical button. There's plenty of space for them to have put one either on the seat here or where the seat adjusters are on the door, but I don't know, for some reason they decided to put it in the infotainment system. Now, nonetheless, let's move on. Let's talk about the technology. So this has 2 screens, one 12.3-inch gauge cluster and one 11.9-inch infotainment system, which is in portrait layout. So it's not in landscape like you see in a lot of other cars, but portrait here, much like the new S-Class and the C-Class as well. So talking about the gauges really quickly, this is the same gauge cluster that you get in all the other Mercedeses, but the graphics are different here in the SL. They've got this really cool and modern futuristic looking gauge cluster or gauge cluster graphics, and it looks very cool, something to differentiate this SL from some of the other Mercedes cars. Now switching over into the infotainment system, this is running the latest MBUX, and I love MBUX. It's one of my favorite infotainment systems because it's extremely simple to use. Navigating it, getting used to it, it's a very short learning curve. Everything is laid out via this home menu. Simple widgets, simple navigation. You can get deep into the menus and customize it if you like, but you don't have to, and that is the beauty of MBUX. Now, one of the cooler things about this infotainment system is that it has the ability to adjust or tilt itself, because when you've got the roof open, the sun can provide a lot of glare onto these newer screens, and that angle that it can move forward and backwards via this button here is actually very cool and very nifty from Mercedes. Now going back to the software, if you didn't like MBUX, this also has the ability to run Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, both as wireless features. So just in case you didn't like MBUX or you're just used to Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, the SL also has you covered here as well. Now some of the other cool features in the SL, the steering wheel, this is the AMG specific wheel. It does have the AMG controllers here, which I love. They look really cool, and they're also very convenient as well because you have the ability to toggle through multiple settings and adjust them individually using these controllers, meaning you literally don't have to take your hands off of the steering wheel. Now some of the other amenities, charging. So we have 4 USB Type-C, no shortage in the SL as far as charging ports, and an additional wireless charging station. The storage is decent. I wouldn't say it's the best up here. You're probably going to utilize those back seats, which I'll cover here in a second. But you have 2 cup holders. The center compartment is actually a pretty decent size for a center compartment. You can probably fit your sunglass holder in there and some other knickknacks. The door pockets are not tall, so maybe a shorter bottle can fit in there, but more than enough to, again, some more knickknacks. Now, one last thing before I move to the back seat, this thing has the ability to configure multiple profiles in the infotainment system that adjusts multiple aspects of this interior. And the way you operate that is via a biometric finger scanner. So you place your fingertip here in the infotainment system, and this will detect who's driving. So if you've got your wife driving it, your husband, your significant other, your friend, your children, you have the ability to switch there. And this is an ultra convenient feature. Somebody jumps in, they're a little taller, somebody's a little shorter, somebody's a little wider, and you have the ability to just change it right here at the tip of your fingertip. So with that, let me back up the camera a little bit and let's see what the back seat is like. All right, so about those back seats in this SL, these new back seats, let's see how I jump in the back. And again, I'm 5'11". You pull this thing and the seat will just move forward a little bit. And let's see how easy or difficult it is to get in and out of this thing. I would say it's okay, not too bad to get in, but as I sit in here, you can see, I don't know if you can see me, but I'm barely squeezing in here. I cannot lift my head. I'm essentially hunched over in order to fit back here. So if you're an adult size individual, I would say maybe taller than, I don't know, about 5'5", you probably will not be able to sit up straight in here. But of course, if the top is down, you will not have this issue. But of course, to demonstrate, I wanted to leave the top up to show that the back seat in this SL is not the most useful thing, or at least not for long road trips and not for taller individuals or individuals taller than possibly 5'5". So that's pretty much it on the back seat and the interior overall. Now let's take this thing on the road and see what it feels like behind the wheel. All right, so now the driving portion of the new SL55, and of course this is what the key looks like. It's just like any other new AMG key. It's actually really nice, all metal, and some black piecing here. As far as the price goes, $137 in this car. I could see the window sticker. It's got several $1,000s of options, bringing it up to $143,000. So it's a moderately equipped SL55. It does not have the performance package, remember that's an additional $7,000. Now the visibility out the front is very good. Even though you have a long hood, it gives you a really nice view forward. Out the side, out the back, of course, with the convertible top down, you have no issues. Even with the convertible top up, you have all the blind spot monitoring and all that stuff, and the pillar is way back in the SL, so no issues. Now let's go ahead and turn this thing on and go for a very quick drive. This is a brand new car and there's only one in the entire dealership. So I'm literally just gonna take it around the block, maybe once or twice just to get a good feel of it. And maybe once they get another one, I'll take another deeper drive and share my really in-depth thoughts of how this SL drives. But for now, I think this will do. I'll get a decent sense of it. Let's go ahead. So put it in drive and let's see what it feels like in comfort mode. Immediate feel, it feels very nice in here. The suspension is an AMG suspension, so it's not super cushiony, but it is definitely comfortable, more GT-esque than full sports car. Now, what I'm going to do, let's go ahead and put it in Sport Plus mode. We're going to get one really quick pull just to see what it feels like in a straight line. And let's go. Oh my goodness. Wow. Brakes are good. Brakes are really good, actually. Really nice bite at the top of the pedal. Woo, downshift barks sound good. Yes, really nice. Wow, this is a properly fast car. 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds seems underrated. This is a very powerful and very fast car. Yeah, this seems very underrated to me. Now, let's talk about the rest of it. The transmission is fantastic. Actually, go ahead, put it in comfort mode. The transmission is fantastic. The paddle shifters, up and down shift, very immediate, whether using the paddles or letting it do its thing automatically. Really nicely done with the transmission. The steering is very good as well. Here in the comfort mode, I do feel like it's decently weighted, not too heavy, the right amount of weight. And then when you go into Sport and Sport Plus, it gets a little heavier, a little too heavy for my taste. But overall, it's actually really good. I had a chance to drive this once before filming this now. So then the comfort mode, the suspension, it does feel like there's some body roll in this thing. It definitely feels that. I can feel the rear wheel steer almost doing its thing back there as well. So if you're going for the performance level trim, there is that active roll bar suspension that the performance level trim and the SL55 get. That might help with that active body roll, or the roll I'm feeling now as I'm taking some immediate or some sharp inputs in the steering wheel. Otherwise, when I'm in comfort mode, this does feel extremely nice to drive. It is very fast, and the feel of it, the overall experience with these AMG convertibles and the SL is very pleasant. It is remarkably fast. When I drove it, and as I drive it here the second time, the speed sensation is very strong. You will not have any shortcomings of speed in this SL55. I can just imagine how much faster the SL63 is going to be. But if you were to just settle for this, you will not feel a shortage of speed, that's for sure. As far as comparing it to maybe a 911, the 911 definitely feels sportier than this. This does still have that balance of a GT car and still maintains some sportiness. When you put it in Sport Plus, it does get properly stiff in the suspension. But if you're looking for something more GT-esque, more something a little bit more balanced, this would probably be a better calling over a 911, and that's normal. The SL has always been that way, and has always been this, and has always had a a GT level experience to go along with the sportiness. I would say the sportiness now is just turned up a little bit more because this is a fully developed platform as a sport convertible from AMG. Now, as I said, I'm constrained to a very short drive, so this is pretty much going to be it. It's a very fast car. The interior is fantastic. It's a very well-balanced car. The exterior is beautiful, very nicely done. The speed and the performance is very nice right at the top. When you get into it, it feels extremely quick. And the convertible drop-top experience is really good. The exhaust barks are very good. I'm trying to put in as much information as I can into this little short drive. And if you've got any other questions, I know I'm definitely not going to be able to answer everything. Leave me a comment down below or send me a message on Instagram at DriveSteady. Otherwise, thank you for watching this somewhat quick drive of the SL55. Until next time, drive steady.